Hello? Screwhead, you there? Hello?
What are you doing here? Get out! Told him before not to work here. Oh, man. How you doing, man?
Screw the Transformers!
Screw the Transformers. The best toys are at the bottom of the toy box. Grab your nuts and bolts and join us as we talk the best toys of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I'm Screwhead.
I'm Avon Fox.
And normally you would be off screen.
Yep.
I don't know how long this podcast is going to go. We're talking about Twilight that doesn't have much to it, but it's still great. It's still awesome. So we'll try to drag this out as long as we can as we talk about the company known as Blue Box and their wonderful Androform line.
The Androforms. Androform. Singular.
Singular.
All right.
What does Androform mean?
It is the form of an andro. And I'm not judging.
Is it an android that forms? Or is it...
No, we're not doing this. Blue Box Toys. Founded in 1952 by Peter Pui. P-U-I. I apologize if I butchered your name. He is the chairperson who founded it and still runs it. It is still running very strong. They, what else did they do? They started
1952. He's still running it?
Yeah, they started in Singapore and I'm going to look at my notes. Hong Kong. And started factories there. Then they moved to China in the 80s. They focused mostly on sort of toddler through to early teen toys. Something I was very surprised about. They design all of their own toys. They do their own marketing. Everything's in-house. All the manufacturing's in-house. They seem revoltingly wholesome. Back then and in this day and age. And are still going strong. So, yeah.
I'm not surprised that they design their own stuff in-house. I mean, it's not...
Well, actually, I'm going to say the Androform line does seem to be a standout out-of-character offering. Let's put it that way. I mean, a lot of their other stuff is baby stuff, so it's rattles, it's educational, put the blocks in the thing stuff, so... I think this is also a bit left of what they would normally do, like like doctors and nurse play sets and things like that. You know, things that are hard to screw up. And so I think this was kind of a bit of a departure for them, in that they were trying to capture some of that robots what change into stuff money and
robots would change into other things.
Yeah, and anyway, it doesn't matter. I think. If you look at the rest of their stuff, you would say, that's a bit of an odd offering from them, including the marketing and everything else that went with it.
Was there a storyline that went along with the Androform robots?
I think we just talked about it. It was the quest to make a bit of money. No, but I can not that I'm aware of. I'm just having a very... the quest appears to be plays well with others.
So what year were the Androform robots released then? It was what year?
I forget. I think it was 1984, but I'll quickly look.
1984.
84, yes.
1984. All right, so then I'm going to do the story.
Go.
The year, 1984. The place, did you say it was Singapore or China?
Singapore and Hong Kong.
Singapore and Hong Kong. Hui needed to make money. Hui thought, look at all those other Transformers and things what turn into other things. I bet we can make money from that. And thus was born Androform.
I'm going to make so much money.
Said Poi.
Said Poi. Mr. Poi, we
apologize. We're really sorry.
That you're one of our 60 subscribers. We truly apologize to you, sir. We love your toys. They came out in what we had like 2 different waves, right? Or what was the...
There's
what
a
was
heap of them. So there's the mini Androform, which is sort of the almost super scale GoBots size. There's a couple of play sets, and there's some handheld games we'll talk about later, which may or may not have even come out by then. So the mini Androform are about big, probably a little bit bigger than most GoBots or 600 series scale, and are plastic and die cast. Actually, surprisingly well cast as far as sculpt and casting is concerned. So the quality is pretty good. And they did an F-14, a default military Jeep, space shuttle, because everyone does a space shuttle, and a Corvette, and a Datsun we've never seen. Wait a minute. No. Avon from the future here. Actually, the Datsun was found. It was found about a handful of days after we recorded that by Mad Lad Tenzi in Melbourne, and it's probably the last of the Androform line. So this is what it looks like. It's a cute little figure and has a really cool mode change for something that scale. It's more akin to the super scale GoBots. And back to the show.
Yeah, and they've got real original names.
Oh yeah,
I think that one's called M1 Tank.
That's one of the most detailed names. The other one's called Jeep, a military Jeep. They didn't really name them. The Corvette is called Corvette. Can you hear that? Oh,
that was my fun microphone thing. It does every once in a while.
Let's leave that in. Let's leave it in.
I'll leave it in.
It was suddenly
Pooey broke into our.
It was the wrath of Pooey. I thought it was suddenly raining.
Why, Pooey? Why?
We're sorry. I guess if you think about it at the time, a lot of other toy lines that didn't have a franchise or didn't have a cartoon base to name things didn't really name their toys. You look at what MC Toy were doing with Motobot and Dinobot, which we'll cover later. And almost any other toy line that wasn't GoBots at the time didn't have character names. They were just the car and the shuttle and the whatever else.
Right.
So I don't think it's a lack of effort. I think it's an evolving landscape in how robot toys were marketed at the time. And then obviously Challenge of the GoBots came out, and all of a sudden everything had to have a name and a faction and be fighting a war. And so no, I don't think it's necessarily a negative of the line looking cheap. I just don't think they'd caught up with marketing that was evolving. And obviously your marketing back then wasn't knock it out in Photoshop in an afternoon. It was people actually doing desktop publishing and markup and having to come up with stuff. So your marketing for your card backs and so on was done maybe 12 months or 6 months before the product even came out, plus development and photographs and everything else. So I think I can cut in some slack on that.
I'm absolutely terrified right now that my microphone's going to do that. Just all right. So
the actual line that's called Androform, because the smaller ones are called mini Androform, the larger ones are called Androform, and you've got one at your end, I believe.
Yes, and this is the Androform one, and this is by far the only thing about this toy line that I love, and I believe it's just called Pistol.
It's just called Pistol, or 2-in-1 Pistol, I think. Yeah.
And my favorite thing about this toy line is that, and I'll transform in a moment, but you see this fist that's right here. Like,
the big red fist.
It's just at the end of the gun, and it doesn't come out. It just sits there. So, like, it's a really decent looking gun, and then it's just like, and fist.
And for anyone who thinks you just didn't try hard enough, I pulled it apart. It doesn't come off.
It does not come apart.
And there was no intention to make it spring loaded or shoot off at any point. I mean, maybe when they were planning it to start with, there was, but there's no indication in the toy that they were saying for any reason. He's also got a little. He can hold a toy. He can hold an accessory, but there's no accessories with him.
Yeah,
and it's a decent size accessory too. It's not like it's
right.
You know,
he's got like a hole in there, like, but he's got a hole right here. So, like, I mean, he's actually all in all a good robot. I just love that he's got like permanent fist action. You know what I mean? It's just the dumbest thing.
Honestly, he's probably more solid than G1 Megatron in robot mode. To be fair,
Well, he's got that good enough construction that, like, I feel like a lot of those 80 toy lines had, where it was just someone would just walk by and was like, "Yeah, it's good enough."
yeah.
A bunch of them, they came out in the Androform, right? We had a couple water pistols or something like that too.
Yeah,
or...
there's another Corvette. I think it's a Corvette, which is just a larger scale one. There's another space shuttle because everyone can do with more space shuttles, and 2 water pistols. One's just a pistol, and one is the rifle robot pistol or pistol. No, that's right, which is huge. I can't get enough hand space. Huge, and it breaks down into 3 different weapons, and then you put them back together. But then that's not a water pistol, was it? I think it's just a clicker gun.
No, the water pistol was based off of the GoBot laser gun, wasn't it? The one that was put out by
loosely. I mean,
yeah.
Actually, yeah. No, I'll give you that. I mean, the mode change kind of is. Yeah. No, okay, yeah, it is.
I'd say loosely.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get caught up on the preciseness of that statement.
2 play sets. So they did an Andro base and an Andro base 1. And I don't know why Andro base 1 wasn't Andro base 2, because it was the second one, but let's assume we can't count. And so this is the the Andro base, which, if any kid in the 80s ever asked for something like the GoBots Command Center and got this, you'll be familiar with this trauma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I think it's actually pretty solid, and I would say more of these exist intact than the Command Center, because you lose all the bits of the other one.
Most American kids, our only exposure to Androform is through that Andro base 1. It was distinctly at Kmart, and you would get that for Christmas from that weird aunt that everybody had, and you'd be like, "Oh, thanks for this."
I actually think, and I'm going to just go out on a limb, I tend to think that they were the only exposure the US got to Androform at all, quite likely. Unless maybe a very small selection of retailers in certain states, because when trying to find examples of them, you never find them in the US. You find them in all through Europe, you find them in Australia and New Zealand, but they just don't seem to be anywhere in the US. And no one seems to have ever heard of them when you talk about them. So I'm going to anecdotally say that they probably weren't released in the US, or at least in decent quantities where you'd ever find any. So,
and they're extremely hard to find, right? Extremely hard to find.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, you find them in job lots where people have no idea what they are, not surprisingly, and just say weird mixed robots. But I would say, without blowing my own trumpet, before I actually put up a page on the site about them, that no one probably knew what they were or had any name on what to call them. Anyway, moving on. This is the coming back. This is the second base, which is very clearly a repurposed parking garage and gas station with space stuff added. Space stuff. It's fairly successful. I mean, it's a solid toy. The plastic's good. I mean, they've repurposed something that was clearly in existence already and just put new stickers on it. So they didn't have to fabricate anything in a hurry. It is what it is. Clearly, they've used toys from other lines on it. And same with the other ones. So there's GoBots. There's actually more interesting than GoBots. There's is it this one? Tell me it's this one. I haven't just gone crazy. I've gone crazy. Oh, it's not this box. It's the other box. Please wait, customers. Your call is important to us. The second release of this thing, which uses what I'm going to call the Genesis Mega Drive-like text and background, has the Mini Cooper Robo on it. So someone's been to Japan at some point, because this guy here is a Cycle KO from Japan as well.
So, and look, there's the dolphin down there too, and that dolphin.
Yeah, so Machine Man, not men, Dolphin.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And there's the bus. So, yeah, clearly that's the Japanese version of it. I really, truly believe that, like, the Androform base, because of...
Yes.
I've often... Well, let me rephrase that. I've often thought the Androform base, the one that's like the ship, it was almost like repackaged for the US, because again, that was the only one we ever saw, and it fit well into that like Kmart brand and Pick and Save brand of Penny Saver Pick and Save was, yeah, that Pick and Save mode of plays well with, like plays well with
Pick and Save
GoBots
is like cheap store. We don't have Pick and
Yeah,
Save. So
it's
like a cheap store kind of.
It was like a Kmart light. It was like a half a Kmart. Androform, one of those toy lines that, was easily lost in time and resurrected by our friend, our hero, our preserver, Avon the Great, pulling it back from the brink of
I was waiting to find out who you're talking about.
being lost to history. Check out theliberator.net. I don't know, is there anything else we want to kind of touch on for the Androform? Or
very briefly, there's some handheld games called Minimate. Yeah, and they're released by a company called Redbox. And they bear the Androform branding using the actual the logo, not just the word, but they use the logo and styling. I honestly don't know how they are linked in any way to Blue Box. The only thing I can find out about them is that they are in Indonesia. They seem to be in Indonesia, or at least their Facebook page says they're in Indonesia. They seem to still be going. And they seem to be releasing very similar products, like this sort of toddler through early learning products. So I'm actually starting to wonder whether they are a regional distribution name, because Blue Box might have already existed in that region. It's about the best I can think of. A bit like Burger King is called Hungry Jack's over here because there was already a Hungry Jack's. Sorry, because there was already a Burger King.
Awesome buggers.
Anyway, the little Minimate games are actually not really the sort of quality you would expect from Blue Box, so maybe someone just bootlegged the name. But they do seem to still be around, so... Because I left it over at my desk. Oh, please excuse the sweatpants. I'm business from the waist up and loose from the waist down.